What's up guys, this is Heiss, and around this time of year, two things are pretty common to happen. One is that Mariah Carey invades everyone's memes and Spotify's and everything, and the other thing is that news media outlets start talking about how Chicago sets their tracks on fire. They set the railroad on fire! Why would they do that? Oh, 'cause turns out you can't have ice and snow in the tracks. Okay. Well, the real reason why Chicago sets their tracks on fire with their switch heaters is so they don't have to do what we have to do. Let's jump to the museum, shall we? So this is a quick lesson on why railroading in the snow sucks, and also why it's good to have bright, shiny-eyed new volunteers who feel like cleaning out switches. Something, Chicago sets their tracks on fire every winter. We should do that. Yeah. Switch heaters are nice, snow melters are nice. They're actually a gigantic pain in the butt to set up and get right, and they cause all sorts of problems. But that's maybe a transit railroad 101 thing. So gents, have you guys railroaded in winter yet? Have you dealt with this?
This is the first time I've done it in the snow.
Yeah, well in the snow being the operative term. Luke, what about you?
First time in the snow.
So the whole point of what you're doing right now is making sure there's no ice in between any of the guardrails and on the stock rails and the flangeways. If there's ice, the choo-choo will decide to make its own tracks, and that's why your switch broom has an actual scraper on the end. You just have a broom, Luke, so. But you want to make sure anywhere the flange is going to travel is free of ice. Because if there's ice that's like built up to the height of the railhead, it will derail and it will make its own path in the ice. And that's not a good time. So every switch, every frog, every crossing, we should probably get the dual gauge switch down there, just the straight route for the narrow gauge, but the frogs and the guardrails, those are your primary thing. Everything else, not the end of the world, but anywhere where if there was ice that the flange could ride up and then pick somewhere else, that's what we need to do.
So we don't crash, and there goes the funding.
Precisely. No peeing in cups allowed today, boys.
It's okay on the railhead, right?
Railhead's okay with snow. You're just looking in the flange way right there, particularly through the frog and any guardrails. Because that's where, if there's an accumulation of ice that we don't know about, we can't see, that's where we'll accidentally go on the ground. So we're not gonna do that today, and I'm gonna knock on the shaft of your broom to knock on wood while I say we're not going on the ground. So, you know, we're not superstitious, but we are a little stitious. And so you're just focusing on, yeah, this rail, because that's the standard gauge path to the shop, that other rail. So as long as your flangeway is clear through here, and then up to the guardrail up here, then we'll be okay to back. And then the same at the crossing. Do we have another switch broom? I'd love to actually help instead of just film you.
Another one, I think, in the crossing shack.
Okay, well, I'll put myself to work. Two idiots.
Three idiots.
I'm only worth a quarter of an idiot. We've proved that on the channel. So it's really most critical in the crossing panel.
Yeah.
And then everything out on the railroad will just be whatever it is. But as long as our flanges are clear, we have the points here cleared.
Points here, dual gauge.
Dual gauge. Do we have the? Is the frog? It's hard to tell. The frog up there is good. Yes, it is. It looks like all the important bits are good. So I guess Luke and I can go hop back on. Yeah, we have like the least railroad out of any railroad out there, and railroading in the snow still sucks. So yeah, I can only imagine being in the class 1 without switch heaters. No thanks. Ugh, my beard is freezing. And we must pick up our frozen crossing flagmen. So I'm not exaggerating in the clip when I talk about locomotives finding their own rails in the ice. It used to happen all the time when the railroads really ran through the winter. You'd hit an icy patch that's super hard, And then the flanges cut their own path, and you can't see the tracks under all the snow. There you go. I've heard of it happening as recently as several years ago on some of the tourist railroads that deal with snow all the time. One particular incident, such as this, is documented in the book Little Engines and Big Men by Gilbert A. Lathrop that I talked about on the channel a couple weeks ago. I'm happy to say, thanks to my wonderful viewers, we were able to find the publisher, and I was able to get the rights to tell stories from the book on YouTube. So I figured, hey, while we're talking about winter railroading and trains cutting their own flangeways, let's have a little story time, shall we? One stormy winter night, two little South Park engines, Joe Plunkett was running one of them, coupled to a caboose, were knocking some snow off the track in South Park, between Como and Fairplay. The way it was snowing and blowing, a man couldn't see his hand in front of his face. They were running by feel, mostly, and their oil headlights threw very little illumination ahead. But they were moving, and so long as they kept moving, everything must be okay. That afternoon, a rancher had driven a herd of cattle across the track where a short spur left the main line. Consequently, the frogs, guardrails, and stub ends were full of ice and snow. The pair of engines and the caboose wallowed over this and kept right on moving. After some little time, the storm clouds broke, and a silver chunk of moon showed through. It halfway illuminated the surrounding scenery. Suddenly, Joe, who was on the head engine, saw a massive, solid-looking object loom squarely in front of his engine. He slammed on his brakes, reversed his engine, and blew an imperative stop signal on his whistle. Halted, the crews unloaded and waded forward to see what the obstruction could be. It proved nothing more formidable than a haystack. "What blankety-blank rancher dumped his haystack on our main line?" demanded one of the crew. "It's just possible this haystack ain't on our main line," surmised Joe Plunkett. "Maybe we're trespassing on somebody's hay land. We'd better find out." They were. Half a mile across the frozen meadow, they finally located their main line. The whole outfit had run along without a hitch. "The only thing I noticed after we left the rails," Joe explained later, "was my engine rode a lot smoother than she did on the track." The South Park had to send back to St. Louis, Missouri to get block and tackle long enough to reach that wandering outfit and drag it back on the track where it belonged. There might be a little bit of tall tale there. There's many of the stories in this book are probably a little exaggerated, but that definitely did happen and was a thing that happened on the railroad. Plunked right through? Okay, keep going. You can't see where you're going. Under the cover of night, there you go. Well, I hope you guys liked that little story from Little Engines and Big Men. Before we finish, I got some cool footage to show you. Well done, sir.
Thank you.
I think it's the first time I watched you couple into something.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. Well, that's good. Thank you.
It's very nice. I've got a meme that I need to go film. Peculiar. Peculiar tracks. Something tells me. Something with 44-inch drivers. Number 3 large counterweight. Outside frame. Has been by. It's a K-37 in the wild. You can see the tracks that they leave in the snow. Not those. Those are train tracks. Those are there first. But these are the tracks that they leave.